Am I the only one who gets stressed out during tax season? I mean, if you're like me and you feel the same stress, then you're really not alone because millions of Canadians feel stressed every time tax season rolls around in spring. But it doesn't have to be stressful, really. It doesn't have to be, because if you gather and arrange your documents early, submitting your taxes will be like completing a simple puzzle. And let's go through the steps together. The first pieces of the puzzle are your income slips, and with these slips, you show the CRA exactly how much you earned during the tax year. If you worked for an employer during the year, you would get a T4 slip, and the T4 slips are the most common tax documents in Canada. The T4 basically shows how much money you were paid during the year and how much money was deducted by your employer as taxes. You will need a T4 from all the employers you worked for during the tax year, even if you only worked for them for a single day of employment. As long as you were paid for a single day of employment, you will need a T4 from that employer. If you have income from other sources such as freelance work, from contracting, either from scholarships or from pension income, you will need a T4A slip. So check with your clients, check with any entity that is paying you such monies so that you would have your T4A slips handy when it's time to submit your taxes. And if you keep your savings in an account that generates interest income, such as in a savings account, a GIC, or a non-registered account, you will need a T5 slip to show investment income from interest. And now that you know what monies came in during the year, the CRA is also interested in knowing how you're saving for the future, which is going to be our next piece of the puzzle, which is your tax deduction documents. I really like tax deductions because they lower my overall tax bill, but they only come close to tax refunds. And the most common tax deduction comes from contribution to my RRSP. So when money goes into my RRSP, I get a contribution receipt at the end of the year, which shows every single dollar I had contributed during that tax year. And it proves to the CRA that I saved towards my retirement. You can contribute money into your RRSP in the first 60 days of the new year and count those contributions with your last year's RRSP contributions. So the deadline for this is the 1st or 2nd of March. So watch out for those dates. And if you opened a FHSA account, which is your first home savings account, you would get a T4 FHSA slip to show your contributions towards your FHSA during the year. Recall that the FHSA is treated similar to the RRSP, which is on a tax deferred basis. So any contributions you make into an FHSA will be treated similarly to an RRSP. So you should also look for receipts from outside your bank or outside your financial institutions. So gather any medical expense reports, any donations you made to registered charities, and all these papers prove that you took serious steps to reducing your total tax bill. Now, lowering your tax bill feels really good, but if your money is making money outside of these registered accounts, you'll still need to gather a few more documents. So let us look at your investment records, which is the third piece of this puzzle. If you only invest inside a TFSA, then you don't need to report any of your gains or losses because that account is already a tax-free account. So the CRA does not really need to know what you did with your TFSA. But if you use a normal, non-registered account, the CRA needs to know about it. So when you buy or sell stocks during the year in a regular account, you must report your profits or losses to the CRA. Your broker or your financial institutions will send you a slip called a T5008, which lists the details of everything you sold or bought during the year. And these will be used to figure out your capital gains or losses for the tax year. While your investment helped your wealth grow during the year, how you worked during this tax year might also help reduce your tax bill. And this brings us to the special work documents, which is the fourth piece of our tax puzzle. If you worked from home during this tax year, your employer might give you a form or a slip called a T2200. And this form proves that you're required to pay for things like home office supplies, internet, or rent just to do your job. But this is a little different if you were self-employed working from home during the year. You won't get a T4 from a boss. You won't get a T2200 from a boss because you are your own boss. Instead, you need to add up your business income separately. And more importantly, you must also organize your business receipts. So things like software costs, advertising, or office supplies. You will not need to send all of these receipts to the CRA when you file. You need to keep a track of these expenses, however. And you must also keep these receipts handy in case you come up for an audit so that you can prove the expenses you've claimed on your tax filing. Well, our puzzle is coming up quite nicely. So you have your income slips, You have your deductions as well as your business receipts. The last piece of this puzzle is knowing when to submit these documents. In terms of taxes, timing is everything. Like, timing is key. Employers and banks are supposed to mail you your tax slips by the end of February, and it is expected that by the first week of March, you should have almost everything you need to file your taxes. For most Canadians, the deadlines to file their tax returns and pay any money you owe is the 30th of April. And if you or your spouse are self-employed, you get a little more time to file, but your deadline is June the 15th. However, if you owe the government money, you still need to pay that bill by April 30th to avoid any extra interest charges on your tax bill. But things happen during tax season. Sometimes you might lose a tax slip that was sent to you by either your employer or by your client. So if you ever lose a slip, you can log into your CRA My account online to get a digital copy. The government usually keeps a record of your T4s and other major slips in your CRA account. So there you have it, guys. Submitting your taxes are really as simple as gathering pieces of a puzzle and knowing when to submit these pieces, knowing which pieces to gather, your income, your expenses, your tax deductions, your RRSP contributions. All of these documents are very, very key in submitting your taxes. So gather them. Take some time out before you start to submit your taxes. So take some time out to gather these documents into a folder on your computer, label each one of them so that you know which slip you are submitting at which particular time when you get into the process of submitting your taxes. Now, the best time to gather your tax document is before you get into the process of submitting your taxes. You don't want to start the process and then you start remembering that, oh, there's a document that is still pending, and you then start scrambling left or right. So make sure you get everything you need before you submit your tax returns this year. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.